Hey guys, it's Mr. Abby coming at you from my slightly sick super science bunker. I hope you guys are staying well. I know I got a little bit of sore throat and some stuffiness today, so make sure you're keeping in, staying healthy. Um, Today, we're talking a little bit more about different kinds of habitats. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about forests, really popular habitat. Today, we're going to be talking about grasslands, all sorts of different kinds of animals live in grasslands, plants. It's a really important kind of ecosystem that also, like forests, is kind of threatened today by human development. Today, again, since we've been talking a little bit about habitats versus ecosystems, habitats just a place you live. An ecosystem is like all the living and non-living things all working together. I want us to think a little bit about grasslands from the bottom to the top. I know we like to think of the lions that live in the African savannas, the hawks that live in our prairies, and everything that top of the food chain kind of animals. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the week, too. Um, but I want us to think from the bottom to the top. Uh, I know we think of a lot of those big animals as being really important and everything like that, but I want us to think a lot today about how important just the simple things like grass is in some of these ecosystems. Um, I think it could really be argued that even though grass is one of the humblest little creatures, living things that live in these ecosystems, I want us to think about how vitally important they are to these ecosystems. I think it could be argued that grass is the most important living thing that lives in the grassland ecosystem. If you didn't have the grass, then you wouldn't have the animals that eat the grass, which your lions and all those apex top predators eat. So without the grass, you can't have any of the other species that live above it. The grass is super important to all of these kinds of animals, and that's why it's important that they're so rugged. You'll see in our brain pop today that they can survive things like being eaten by big predators like cows and stuff like that. They can survive fires, they can survive floods. Grass is a really tough plant, and they're so important to these ecosystems. Even though we might look at it, we step on the grass, we don't really think too much about some of these little things in our ecosystems. But sometimes it's the very smallest thing that makes the biggest difference overall. Again, without the grass, you can't have the bison that we learned about when we were talking about the American expansion into the West. You can't have a lot of these big ecosystems without the little things that the animals at the bottom of the food chain eat. So again, I want us to think about these ecosystems as one big happy family, more or less, that everybody's working together to try to get what they need. And without the very smallest things, it really wouldn't exist. I find adults when I was studying evolution, I had a lot of adults ask me like, well, what is, if every animal is important, what's the point in stuff like mosquitoes? Mosquitoes, they bite us, they're annoying. Um, but without mosquitoes, you don't have stuff like bats that live on mosquitoes. There's a lot of animals that need those lower in the food chain things to stay alive and get what they need too. So really, again, I want us to think of all these systems as every little piece in the puzzle being just as important. Um, you can kind of think of it. They call it a keystone. When you're building an arch, there's a stone right at the top that everything kind of leans into and holds everything together. And if you take one little piece anywhere out, the whole thing falls apart. So you could think of the grass, some of these smaller insects and stuff that are kind of annoying to us. You can kind of think of those as keystone species. I know a lot of people, when I was talking about springtime, I was talking about the dandelions. And a lot of the people look at those things as just weeds. They mess up my garden. I want to get rid of them. But in the end of the day, those are some of the most important pollen and nectar sources for our bees that we love so much and we know are so important to our food systems. So again, even the smallest things, which is why I was telling you guys not to go out and pick those dandelions, even some of the smallest things can be very important to keeping our whole food web, our whole ecosystem together, and to keep everybody well fed, happy, and healthy. So that's something I really want us to keep in mind while we're at this. I know it's easy to focus on the big bison and the lions and the giraffes of the world, but I want us to take a little bit of time to think about the humble grasses and the bees and the little insects that maybe we have a tendency to look over sometimes. So again, once you get through your brain pop, I've been loving hearing a lot of you guys' input at the bottom here. So I really loved keeping you guys up on giving me your thoughts on this. Today our quiz is on the grasslands. I didn't do too many of the multiple response questions here, so it should be pretty easy for you guys. Our first question in grasslands is true or false? Grasslands exist on every continent except Antarctica and can be named different things based on where they are. True or false? Pretty easy. Now, while trees sometimes grow in the grasslands, they don't usually turn the whole area into forest because do fires burn down all the trees? Do animals eat all the trees before they can get big, eat the little saplings before they can get big enough? Is it because there isn't as much rain in grasslands to allow as many trees to grow? Trees do need a lot of water. Or do trees not like the wide open spaces that grasslands grow in? Our next question is, while fires can be dangerous, they can help grasslands by, do they scare off the animals that eat the grass, giving it a chance to regrow? Do our fires, they don't help, they just hurt, and they hurt plants and animals? Do they make it scary or dangerous for humans to build there, letting the grass continue to grow since the humans are wrecking everything? Or do they clear old plants and return nutrients to the soil? Grasses are really tough plants that can survive fires, floods, and lots of predators. Why is that? Do they have deep roots that allow them to grow back quickly when they're damaged? Are they thin and tough, so they're harder to eat? Do most animals not like to eat grass? Or are they fireproof? For our last question, many migratory animals or ones that travel long distance rely on grasslands because is it easier to see where you're going in the grasslands and the forests? Are there lots of plants, insects, and larger animals that different creatures can eat in grasslands? Are do grasslands always grow where it is warm all year? Or grasslands don't usually have as many predators? Maybe a good reason to hang out or travel between there. For our extended answer question, where I want to hear your thoughts, grasslands exist all over the world, from the prairies of the United States to the savannas of Africa. What are some of the things that you think of when you think of grasslands? Sorry, getting a little stuffy here, but what are some of the things that we think of when we think of grasslands? I know a lot of us have seen stuff like Lion King. I know we talked a lot about westward expansion when we were talking about the 1800s, Lewis and Clark, um, talking about the Pony Express, a lot of big open plains in the U.S. What are the kind of things we think of? Do we think of stuff like the Oregon Trail? Do you think of stuff like Lion King? Um, there's a lot of connections I feel like we have with the grasslands. Humans have had a big relationship with grasslands for just about as long as humans have been a thing. They're really important ecosystems, and there's a lot that we get from them aside from when we go out and we build onto them and make it harder for other things to live there. So I want to hear a lot of you guys' thoughts. Think of maybe like the Plains Indians, how much they relied on the buffalo. Um, And again, I really like to keep us thinking about while the humans relied on the buffalo, what did the buffalo rely on? They relied on that grass. So again, grass, super important species to these ecosystems that I cannot stress enough how important grass is when we're talking about these kind of ecosystems and the kind of the way food chains build themselves up and how even the smallest thing in that structure in that system, how just the smallest things can make the biggest difference. Because if you wipe out all the grass, you can say goodbye to all the bison. You can say goodbye to all of our cows and our ranchers and everything. It's even really important to us. I know we don't eat grass, but these things are very, very important to other animals and ecosystems. So, again, I love to hear you guys' thoughts. I read through them every day. Um, I want to start shouting some of you guys out for some of these great thoughts because you guys really you bring your own knowledge to the table, and I love to learn from you guys just as much as I hope you guys are learning from these videos and learning from me. And again, I look forward to seeing you guys once we get back into school. Hopefully, I'm feeling a lot better by then because I'm sure you can tell that I'm stuffy, my voice is all gravelly and stuff like that. So I am going to make sure that I am well locked in and that I'm not spreading my sick to anybody else. I hope to see some of you guys in our office hours later today. All your second grade teachers should be on today, so I really look forward to hearing from you guys and seeing you. Keep it awesome, my ducklings. Stay healthy, stay home, and have a great day.